Assalamualaikum and good morning to Madam Ashakiri. My name is Aqil bin Muhammad ANUAR. My metric number is 23DBT20F1017. Okay, today I'm going to do an experiment of fermentation and yeast. Okay, so the apparatus and the material that we use in this experiment is first we need water. We have white sugar, brown sugar, and of course yeast, and tablespoon, teaspoon, we just use ruler, and this is a cup for water. And today I'm going to do a 4 experiment. First is I use 1 teaspoon of brown sugar and 1 teaspoon of white sugar and 1 tablespoon of sugar and 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. Okay, so the first procedure is I will do 1 tablespoon of white sugar. Put it in Ziploc bag and 1 tablespoon of yeast. Put in the Ziploc bag, and I use half cup of water. Put in the Ziploc bag. Okay, after that, close the Ziploc bag. Okay, now we need to shake the Ziploc bag to mix all the yeast and sugar. So remember that sugar is the food of yeast. Okay, after we done mix all the yeast and sugar, we need to measure the thickness of the Ziploc bag. So now the thickness is 2 cm. Okay, so now we need to wait 5 minutes to see the fermentation occur. Okay, now I will do brown sugar. Okay, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar and 1 tablespoon of yeast. I put a cup of water. Then make sure that you remove all the air in the Ziploc bag to make sure that fermentation can occur. Okay, so this is for 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, and make sure you label it, and we need to wait for 5 minutes. Okay, as you can see, I have done 2 different substrates with different of amount. So this is 1 tablespoon of sugar, and this is 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, and this is a different amount, which is I use 1 teaspoon of sugar and 1 teaspoon of brown sugar, and all of this I use a same amount of yeast, which is 1 tablespoon of yeast. Okay, so while sugar and other sweeteners provide food for yeast, too much sugar can damage yeast. So now we can see that the amount of sugar is perfect because of yeast and hampering its growth. So Now, sugar also affects the rate of fermentation reaction. So a little sugar up to 3% speed up the fermentation. So the yeast processes the added sugar first, so it can saving the time it would take to break down starch into sugar. And we can see white sugar and brown sugar. So the white sugar will only contribute to the production of alcohol once it is consumed by the yeast, and yet barely gives any extra flavor, while the brown sugar is relatively difficult to control during the fermentation. That because we can see that white sugar is more bubble than brown sugar. Okay, now I will measure the thickness of 1 tablespoon of sugar. So the thickness is 4.5 cm. This is for 1 tablespoon of sugar. Next, I will measure the 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. So brown sugar only 2.5 cm. And for 1 teaspoon of brown sugar is 2.4